Okay, let's be honest. You didn't think the Flyers would be 7-2-1 to start the season by the way they're playing. But after a 4-3 overtime victory, after blowing a 3-1 lead in the third, the Philadelphia Flyers come away on top over the New York Islanders. That is 2 games in a row where the Flyers have beaten their arch nemesis from the playoffs, the New York Islanders. The Islanders have not been playing their best hockey of late, I wouldn't say. They came in here with a losing record, and they're going to leave with a losing record. There was a lot of hesitation and fear about playing them, and understandably so. They outplayed the Flyers in many different facets. And even over these 2 games, you can look at these games and you would not say the Flyers dominated. Having said that, they did a lot of things right. I want to go through what's going on here. And are the Flyers good? We'll talk about that at the end. Let's go through the tonight's game, though. This victory tonight was well executed in certain respects, but also had lull moments. They obviously didn't come out fantastic in the game. It wasn't one of those games where you would say the Philadelphia Flyers played a full 60 minutes. Having said that, they haven't done that at all this year, pretty much in almost any game, yet they continue to have a winning record. Now, in my opinion, what you're witnessing there is more... they're getting by on talent. This is what the Flyers used to have done to them, is they would come in, they would outplay teams, they would outshoot them. We all remember this. And just not get rewarded. We would lose. And even if the team got outplayed, they would still beat us. Somebody would show up last minute. That's essentially what's happening here. The Flyers just have an abundance of talent. They're getting by on that to a degree. That's why you see AV challenging people, sitting TK. If you're not sure about why that's happened, I'm not saying I'm pro the move, but you can see it's the correct lever. He was the right player. He was the only one really struggling of the group. Tonight he also didn't have his best game, but he didn't have a bad game. But he didn't have, he just wasn't noticeable enough, but that's fine. He's going to get out of it. We know what TK is capable of, and don't get ahead of yourself. He's still young. If you expect no struggles from him or Patrick or Lindblom, please just, that's why there's a team here. That's why veterans are on the team. And let's go through it. So, the top line tonight, and let's call it the top line, the Hayes line. Obviously, they look good. Kevin Hayes looked the best. Lindblom, they had some good shifts and all that, but overall, I wouldn't say 5-on-5. It was their best games. I will say Kevin Hayes played well. It showed. He had a bunch of ice time, played both ends. He obviously had the overtime winner. But, a good line in its own right. The second line, Patrick, Giroux, and Voracek, that is a line that's doing well. You'll obviously see Couturier get slotted in there at some point, most likely. And that'll probably be the official first line. Patrick can then slide down. Now, Lawton's playing really well, but Lawton plays well everywhere anyway. Farabee's playing well. I do expect Farabee to probably play with Patrick. He's a very responsible player, and it kind of makes sense. That third line, obviously, let's talk about him. Joel Farabee. I've talked about him for a while. If anybody knows, I expect him to make the NHL early. A lot of people, I heard even Russ Cohen said he thought he should be a point-per-game player this year. I don't know if he's going to end point-per-game player, but I'm not surprised by the success. I compared him to Simone Gagne mixed with Jonathan Taves a little bit, just because he's got more of that... Obviously, he's American, but he's got kind of a different personality. He's a grittier player than Gagne. Again, he was not more finesse, but definitely more straight-line player. Farabee is just a little more gritty. But again, the skill sets are very similar. High-end PK player, high-end goal scorer. You can see that tonight. He already had a hat trick in his young career. I really think this is just the beginning. I think Joel Farabee's pretty underrated. I think people kind of expect him to be like a 60-point player in the league. I really don't see that happening. I think he's most likely going to be a complimentary top-end, top-line player. Maybe he can hit 40 goals like Gagne, but with the right combination, I could see it happen. I mean, he didn't score a hat trick here by accident. You look at those goals; they were purposeful. And let's talk about the man of the hour, the guy who leads the team in points right now. I mean, Claude Giroux obviously is doing fantastic. That pass in overtime was fantastic. He just looks good, and honestly, I could see him probably leading the team in points by the end of the year. He just keeps getting better and better and better and better. Yeah, he's not as fast as he used to be, but everything else is still there. And I think as his team plays better, you'll see him excel more. He has to do less when the team plays better. Sean Couturier, obviously a huge part of that. We should see other players excel, which is kind of crazy. They're already 7-2-1. They don't have their best player. Kind of crazy to think about. And that is a Stanley Cup contender. And that's what I want to see. That's what I really want to see with this team. I want to see guys like JVR step up, and obviously we're seeing that. I mean, JVR went from being in everybody's doghouse, quite for everybody's, to leading the team in points. Now, I'm not shocked that he's capable of doing it. I mean, this is a former second overall pick. This is a guy who, season before last, quite frankly, had a very good season and excelled in a lot of ways, especially offensively. He had a little bit of a knee injury in the beginning of that season, but then kind of worked his way through. And then him and Drew, so a lot of chemistry. We're seeing that now. The power play is kind of rolling a little bit. So I think it's safe to say that JVR is back. Even at the rate that he's going, he's already on a pace to improve from what he did last year, with 12 points already, I think, in the first 10 games, something like that. He's just doing really well. It's great to see. It does put him at risk for expansion. I think we still expose him. It's a good thing. I don't think the Flyers are going to be desperately trying to move anybody. If they're good, they're good. They're going to try to maintain as many good players as they have, especially if a guy like JVR is excelling. But again, you do think about who they protect in that expansion draft. It does make him more of a target if he's playing well. I mean, quite frankly, makes him a target even for a trade target. But we'll see. He makes a lot of money. I think we're all happy with him. And I think anybody who's rooting to see him fail to leave town or see him do well to leave town, I don't understand that. I want to win. And JVR is killing it right now. And I'm thoroughly happy with his performance. And he's a big part of that locker room. People give him, I think they underestimate that. But he's been part of this organization for a long time. And he's not playing a ton of minutes, but he's performing in his role. And he's playing physical and hard. And I think the Flyers need big, strong players. And right now he's doing it. It's awesome. The fourth line, Bunnaman, actually, I thought played really well. He didn't have a ton of time early on, but then started getting more minutes. He's good. He's a good hockey player. That kid is definitely going to be an NHL player. Most likely, a fourth line center kind of guy. If he can be a third line center, it's definitely possible. But he's got the size, the tenacity, he's got the skating. Definitely has the intelligence for it. Especially to make it such a young age. It's nice to see we have Bunnaman, quite frankly, because he's getting better, and we're going to need him. We're going to need him for the playoffs. So it's actually good that he's getting ice time. I do think that a guy like Frost will probably take his spot in the lineup healthy, regardless of how well Bunnaman plays. But it's awesome to see what he's doing. NAK got stronger and stronger and stronger. He's getting better. He started off the season kind of high and then weird dip in his play, and then now all of a sudden he's back up. He is young. But he's so effective when he's on his game. In that fourth line role, he's very, very effective. He's hard to move off the puck. He's good two-way. He can shoot. Reminds me of Michael Raffl in a lot of ways. And Michael Raffl also had a strong game. Not his best game, but strong game. He's perfect on that fourth line, thoroughly. And the fact that you can slide him in the center if necessary, like an injury during the game, not too shabby. So the forwards did well. The defense overall, I think Provorov had a strong game. I think, obviously he's part of that power play at the end there. I think Phil Myers had a good game, especially for coming back. He was a +3. So Sanheim had a better game. I mean, the two of them have played 23 minutes of ice time. So just put that in perspective to you. Heavily relied upon that unit. Provorov with 30 minutes of ice time tonight. He was a -1 with 1 assist. But I think he played really well. I don't think the -1's really indicative of how he played. He didn't play a perfect game. Braun was okay, but he had a couple bad turnovers. And I think the combination of Haig and Braun, just the inability to move that puck out of the zone, it's killing us. It's killing us. And I want Gustafsson to be able to play a more physical game, and I think that's why he got benched tonight, hoping that Haig can kind of handle that game, especially on a back-to-back night, get Haig some playing time. I don't necessarily want to pick on Haig. I think he can work his way out of it. He's played a lot better in his career, but he's not playing his best hockey for whatever reason. I wouldn't panic too much about him, but I would say he is at risk of a trade. Not everybody, but there's a lot of guys who are at risk of a trade, but it's just because we're a really good team. I don't think anybody's being shopped. Not at this point. I mean, I think there's conversations happening. I think the Flyers are looking to improve their team. But listen, we're 7-2-1. That is not an accident, okay? Carter Hart and Brian Elliott are both part of this team. They're both playing exceptionally well. I think Hart maybe had a few bad goals this year. Elliott maybe has none. They've been solid. The team defense has been a problem. It's sloppy execution. All of the losses are execution-based. This is not a talent issue. That's why I don't want to sit here and pick on Haig. Is Haig the reason we lost the game? or give up some of those leads, yeah, you can make a case for 1 goal, on that one. But again, we're talking about a different reason every night here. So it's not like Haig every single night is the weak point, right? You have to look at what is actually happening. And a lot of these mistakes are happening due to poor team play. When they get on their game and they stick together, a lot of it is when you see them spread apart. If you see one man by himself, and everybody's late and the guy's looking around, no puck support, that is usually the Flyers' biggest indication of a problem. No puck support, even the execution out of the zone. Yes, you could have Braun and Haig out there executing the puck and getting that puck out of the zone, but there should always be support, right? Because those guys are probably not going to be able to handle it. Provorov can handle it, right? Ghost had a bad turnover tonight. But I do think he's playing well. I don't think necessarily he's playing poorly. I didn't think he had his best game. I think he had a better game last game. But he did do some things well. And I don't think he necessarily is going to get demoted or anything like that. I think they're going to keep rolling with this unit. I think they like Sanheim and Myers. Obviously, I still want to see Myers with Provorov. But I'm not the coaching staff, and I think there's nothing wrong with it as long as they're doing well. I do see that as a thing in the future, so why not give it a go? But maybe they didn't see exactly what I see. But again, they're winning, so I'm not complaining. The team play does need to improve. That will happen when Couturier enters the lineup to a degree for sure. But really good teams, they need to win regardless of having your best player or not. And I don't mean win as in winning every night or be the best team in your division, but like these 6-1 losses, those are not acceptable by any team's standards. Any team, even the worst team in the league. And I think we all know that. I don't think anybody's denying that. It happens. It happens. It doesn't mean they're a terrible team. It's an execution problem. But they are a good team. They are a good team. And in fact, I would say most people who are panicking, look at how well they're playing, not playing well. So imagine when they start to play well, which we know happens typically after the beginning of the season. This has got to be the best start that I've seen. I haven't looked up the numbers, but it has to be the best start I've seen in, I don't know, maybe a decade. Even the Stanley Cup championship team, I think they started, our Stanley Cup performing team with Pronger, I think they started 0-3-3. Couldn't even win a game for the first 6 games. Again, none of this is an indication of how good your team is, but I'm watching the way they're winning. I'm watching the fact that they're not that good, yet they always have either an elite guy or a top-end guy or just a good player who steps up and has a great game, or a young rookie who has a hat trick, or not a rookie, a sophomore, right? What happens when Frost back in the lineup? And Couturier, we're not even including these guys. And yes, there are other teams with talent. We see what Washington is doing where they lose elite players and still compete, but that's what we're competing with here. We're watching Boston without Pasternak play well. They put up 6 goals on us and catch us sleeping. That is what a good team is, so we need to play like that. And I think we kind of are, but we're a mess for whatever reason. But it does seem like every single game, it's a little bit closer to 60 minutes. So I would stay positive. Don't expect this to end. I would say maybe the Flyers are about to go even on a larger run here because they have a good streak going here with 4 in a row. So let's see how far they can take it, because this team is pretty good. And if they can get healthy and they can really get on a roll, they can separate themselves from the pack. They can catch Washington. They already have for first place. No reason that they can't take over. No reason they can't separate.